Hey everyone, welcome back to part 3 in the series on what to do if you are struggling to be consistent with your eating habits or just really any health habit in general. When I'm working with women in the Emerge program or talking to people before they get into Emerge, what I really have found is that so many women tell me they struggle to be consistent. So they can eat healthy for a while, they exercise for a while, maybe that's a few days, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, but then for whatever reason, that consistency just isn't there, where they just don't keep doing those healthy habits long term. And because of that, it's really hard to reach any health or weight loss goal if you're not, being consistent with the habits. So if that sounds familiar to you at all, this video series is definitely going to be helpful for you. And like I said, we're in part 3. So even if you missed part 1 and part 2, that's okay. They're kind of all standalone, so you can jump in today. But I do encourage you to go back and watch part 1 and part 2, because in each video, I'm going over a different pitfall that stops someone from being consistent. And so the goal is that you can kind of watch each of these videos and figure out which of these obstacles apply most to you. And the whole goal is that, you figure out what's stopping you from being consistent so you can put a plan into place and start being more consistent so that the weight starts coming off. So if you need help finding part 1 or part 2, they're in the Clean and Mindful Eating Facebook group. They're also on my YouTube channel. But if you can't find it, just type part 1 or part 2 in the comments and I'll make sure to get the link to you. But let's dive into today's pitfall. So this is pitfall number 3. I think that this is probably one of the biggest ones that stops people from being consistent, and that is they skip meal planning. And I know this is not a super fun, exciting topic. I know a lot of people struggle to meal plan. They're really resistant to it. I often joke with the clients I work with that it is often easier for me to get someone to give up sugar than it is to get someone to start meal planning. It's just it can feel overwhelming. It can feel stressful. It can feel difficult. And if you're not doing it, it's going to be extremely difficult to be consistent with eating healthy, especially if you're trying to eat clean, trying to eat more real whole foods. So what I want to do today, I want to make this video really helpful and practical for you. So I want to start by just going over some of the reasonings why, the problems that can come when we don't meal plan, and some of the benefits that you do get from meal planning. Because I want to motivate you and encourage you. If you need like a little bit of boost of motivation to actually start meal planning, I want to kind of help motivate and encourage you to do that. But then we'll get a little bit more practical and look at like, what does it actually include? Like when I say meal plan, what does that mean? What does that look like? And I want to give you some tips to make it a little easier so that it doesn't feel as overwhelming to get started. So that is the plan. If we haven't met yet, real quick, I'm Christina Johnson. I'm a transformational nutrition coach. I founded the Emerge Weight Loss Program, and that is the method that I developed to help women create a clean and mindful eating lifestyle that they can stick with long term. And this is my solution to figuring out how to lose weight for good, so you don't have to keep going on and off diets. Okay, so let's jump in to today's pitfall, which is not meal planning. And I'm curious before we get started to know if you meal plan or not. So will you let me know in the comments? You can either just type yes or no if you are currently a meal planner. And like I said, a lot of people really resist this. So because of that, like I want to just kind of highlight some of the problems that come when you don't meal plan. So first of all, and these are things that I hear from women over and over, and I'd love to know what you can relate to, if you can relate to any of these problems. But when you don't meal plan, one of the biggest issues is that you spend so much more time thinking about what you're going to eat. A lot of times women will tell me like all day long, they're trying to figure out, what am I going to make for supper? What do I have on hand? They kind of like dread that time of day because they're not sure what they're going to do, and it just feels hard. And so one of the problems with not meal planning is that you just spend extra time and you feel extra stress about what you're going to eat. But in addition to that, when you don't have a meal plan, then the other thing that happens is it comes mealtime, and one, it takes longer because you have to first figure out what you're going to make. But then two, you may not have all the ingredients on hand, or things aren't thawed out that need to be, or, there's all kinds of things that come up. And so you just don't have what you need in order to make the meal plan happen. And so what happens then is, you don't have everything on hand you need. So maybe what a lot of people do is they just fall back to quick, easy things. I'll just have some chips and salsa, have some crackers and cheese. And so we end up not eating like a full balanced meal, which makes us hungrier and have more cravings and just leads to more issues down the road. And so what I find over and over is that, if you're not meal planning, it is just so difficult to be consistent with your eating habits. Like, have you noticed that at all? Let me know. Just put a me in the comments if you've noticed that if you don't meal plan, it is hard to be consistent. The other issue that does come with it that I see is that, maybe sometimes people will have a plan for dinner, but not for breakfast and lunch. And one of the issues then is that they start to undereat at breakfast and lunch, or they're not getting all the nutrients they need. So they feel more snacky and grazy during the day. They're famished by the time dinner comes around, and they don't always make the healthiest choices. So really, if you're not planning, it is so hard to be consistent with eating healthy. So I will also say, because you're are in my world, I'm all about eating clean, eating real, whole, healthy, whole foods. And the reality is it is a little bit more difficult to do that in our modern day life, because the processed foods, the quick convenience foods, that's what's so available. And so when you want to eat clean, it does take a little bit more thought to make sure you have the fresh produce, to make sure meat is thawed out. It's 100% possible to eat clean, even if you're busy and working full time and have kids to feed and on the go. But if that's the case, if you're in one of those boats where you're just busy on the go, meal planning is going to be your best friend. It's the only way to really make it happen consistently. And so I want to start, before I kind of break down what meal planning is, I want to just highlight that meal planning is different than meal prep. So a lot of times, when I'm talking to someone about it, what I'm realizing is that they think it's kind of all lumped together. And I'm sure you've probably seen the pictures on Facebook or Instagram with the people that have all the containers, and their lunch Monday through Friday is all packaged in containers and in the fridge, neatly lined up, ready to go. That is meal prep. So meal prep is actually making your food, having days of meals in advance. And that's great. There's a lot of benefit to meal prep, but that's not what I'm referring to. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with the idea of meal planning, let's just take meal prep and set that off to the side. You can do that later. I am simply talking about meal planning. And so here's what meal planning looks like. Meal planning is sitting down, and I have a notebook that I use, and I just write out a little chart in my notebook, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I do it usually Saturday through Friday. And I just write down, here's what I'm having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day. And as I'm doing that, I create a grocery list at the same time, so I have everything on hand for that plan. That is meal planning. Meal planning is just writing down what you're going to eat for the week and making the grocery list to go with it. So for those of you feeling overwhelmed, we don't need to do the meal prep step at this point. If you want to at some point, great. Personally, I don't do a ton of I do some meal prep, but I'm definitely not one of those ones that packages out all my meals for the week and things like that. But a few other tips about meal planning. So to make it a little bit easier to get started, one thing I would highly recommend is to create a routine for yourself. So my routine, especially from the summer months, has been typically Friday afternoon or late afternoon, early evening. I will make my meal plan and my grocery list. So I have it all written down, and then I take my grocery list and I throw it in my purse. And that way, when I'm out and about during the weekend, because we live about 20-25 minutes from the grocery stores I like to go to. So when I'm out and about, then I just have my list and I pick up the groceries and I'm ready to go. But I know my kind of unwritten hard and fast rule is that by Sunday night, I have my meal plan made and my groceries bought. I can tell you that at least in the past year, I have not once gotten to Monday without a meal plan made and my groceries bought. Because for me, if I don't, like, it has happened in the past. I can remember a time a couple years ago where we were on vacation and we came home on Sunday and we got home, gosh, it was probably around 1 or 2 a.m. And before I went on vacation, sometimes I'll make a meal plan for that next week, and I hadn't done that time. And so we got home late and I figured, okay, Monday I'll go grocery shopping. But then, the week started. I was trying to get unpacked from vacation. I had tons of work to catch up on. And so I just never got groceries or made a meal plan that week. And that week, I was so off. I was snacking constantly. I wasn't eating good meals that were filling me up. It just didn't go well. And so I know things don't go well when I don't meal plan. And so it is my number one priority. I do not start Monday without my meal plan made and my groceries bought. And so if you can kind of start to get into that mindset, and maybe it's not Monday for you. Maybe you're more a person that you have Mondays off of work. And so Mondays are your day to shop and to, make your meal plan. But my suggestion to make it easier is to just get into a routine. So when is a day and a time that most weeks will work for you to meal plan and get your groceries? The second tip I have for you is you can also break this down into steps. So if the idea of sitting down and making a meal plan feels overwhelming or daunting to you, as it does to a lot of the women I work with, here's the steps I would break it down into. First step is to look for recipes. So this could even be, at the end of the day, if you're just kind of winding down, you have something on TV, maybe you just want to be searching for recipes just for, half an hour. And during that time, you could choose 1 or 2 recipes that you want to try for the next week. Because when you try to search for recipes while you're making the meal planning, it can get you down this rabbit hole. You can spend hours doing it, and then the meal planning process just tends to take forever. So maybe you could do any recipe searching that you want to do a different time. And then when you sit down, you already have some recipes chosen and you just make your meal plan and grocery list at that time. And then you can even wait. You could do groceries right after that, or you could wait and do it another day. So you can break it down into these little bite-sized pieces to make it feel a little bit more manageable for you. The other idea that makes it easier, like I mentioned, that I have a notebook where I do my meal plan every week, and I keep my past meal plans, because why reinvent the wheel? If I have a meal plan and recipes I enjoyed from months ago, I'm going to use them again. And so if you feel stuck and you're not sure what to add to the meal plan, just flip back through old menus and use recipes from there. So that's something else that makes it a little bit easier. And then the other tip that I think probably is most helpful for women when I'm talking with them is just to keep it simple. So I've, shown women in my Emerge group my meal plan before, and a lot of times they're kind of surprised by how simple it is. So, oftentimes for breakfast, I will just do a smoothie. So I write down, on Saturday or Sunday smoothie, and then just draw a line down through every day, because that's what I have a lot of days. And maybe I switch up the flavor or whatever, but it's pretty basic. For lunch, we usually make something on Sunday, and I have the same thing Monday through Friday. So I write down what I'm having for lunch on Monday and just draw my arrow, and I eat it every day, Monday through Friday. And then for dinner, we usually cook every couple of nights. So whenever I cook something, I almost always try to make enough to last 2 or 3 days. And so we're cooking dinner, every 2 or 3 days. And so that's another thing. It can be simple. You don't even have to find fancy recipes. A lot of times my meal might be, especially for dinner, it might be salmon and veggies. As we have frozen fish in the freezer all the time, so we'll just have some frozen salmon and whatever veggies I have on hand from that week, and that's it. So it doesn't always have to be fancy, complicated recipes. So that's another thing. If it feels overwhelming, just keep it simple. The last tip I have for you to make meal planning a little bit easier is you don't have to plan a whole week at a time. So some women, when I'm kind of coaching them or trying to figure out a system that works, a lot of women feel like it might be a little less intimidating if they only have to plan for a few days. Some people even start just planning 1 day at a time. And then they kind of gradually work up to 2 days or 3 days at a time. And eventually you can plan out a whole week, but you don't have to start there. If that feels like too much, just do a couple days at a time and just get in the habit of meal planning. And so as we kind of start wrapping up, I just want to reiterate that there are so many benefits of meal planning. I know it's not something super fun. It's probably something you've heard before is important. But if you look back, if you have not been consistent with your eating habits, just take a moment to ask yourself, is it because I'm not meal planning? Am I not making the best choices because I don't have a plan, because I don't have the groceries on hand, because I'm not sure what I'm going to make for dinner that night? This really can be a big obstacle. And so when women go through the Emerge program, when they finish, I always like to ask them, what are some of the habits that you've put into place that have been most helpful and the things that you want to make sure you keep doing so that you're successful moving forward? And I would say at least 80, maybe 90% of the time, the women tell me meal planning is one of those key habits. They know that when they meal plan, they will be consistent with eating healthy. They may not be perfect, but they're going to probably be at least 90% there. And so the women who are successful with eating healthy consistently, they are meal planning. And when I'm working with a client and they're struggling a little bit, they're getting off track, they're not eating as well, oftentimes if we start talking to them, that's one of the habits that have slipped. They haven't been meal planning. And so that's one of the first things they go back to. But in addition, you will be more consistent, but I will say that so many people also tell me that it saves so much stress. It saves time. They're not thinking about food as much. And a lot of people tell me it saves money. So I know some people's concern with eating healthy is that it's going to cost so much more, but I've definitely had several women tell me that when they come into Emerge and I show them how to start meal planning, that their eating budget actually goes down. Partially because they're not, getting as much fast food and snack foods. Partially because they're meal planning, so they're actually using all of the groceries they buy. But also because they're not eating out as much and not picking up as much like random things here and there. So meal planning, I can't stress the importance of it enough for you. It really is one of those key habits that will make or break many people's success with eating healthy consistently and losing weight. So let me know in the comments. My challenge to you, the takeaway from this video today is if you are not meal planning, are you willing to give it a shot? So let me know. Type meal plan in the comments if you are willing to commit to giving it a shot. Even if it's for a few days, maybe it's a week, it doesn't matter. But just give it a try and see how it goes. See if it helps you be more consistent with your eating habits. So I'd love to know if you're going to take that challenge. So just type meal plan in the comments if you will. And then if you want more support, if you want a step-by-step plan to follow to create a healthy lifestyle so you lose weight for good, if you want all of the pieces that it takes to be successful and have lasting weight loss, then that's what the Emerge Weight Loss Program is all about. And I walk you step by step through making all these changes so that you lose weight for good in a really healthy and sustainable way. So if you're interested in figuring out if that's right for you, I would be happy to talk with you on the phone. So I'll put a link in the comments to my calendar where you can book a complimentary lose weight and keep it off breakthrough call. And so that's a chance for us just to talk more about your goals. We'll figure out what's stopping you from losing weight and what steps would be best for you to actually start seeing lasting results. So go ahead, book that call, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. So let me know if you have any questions about meal planning. Otherwise, I will be back with part 4 of this series in a week. All right, bye for now.